It's the English and English podcast.
That's Brett.
That's Eric.
And this is episode like 39 or something.
35. Not
oh, well, what am I doing here?
Right.
I don't get out of bed for anything earlier than 39.
And call me when it's 40,
Yeah.
asshole.
Call me when we have more than 3 people listening.
Right.
Actually, we get at least like 40 views.
I'm pretty sure some of them are bots.
Like web bots to
Right.
troll the internet, put it into our files.
Right, yeah.
So that we can't ever be present.
Or it's some company in India that pays like people, because you get like names, like so-and-so liked your video. I'm like, why does Guptar Hamnashi like my video? What does he know about the weird things I'm talking about?
You speak English, sir.
Right, yeah.
If you hear weird muffled noises, it's because I'm eating a giant cookie.
Mm-hmm. It's so delicious. I just need it.
You gotta feed the beast.
Mm-hmm. I'm sure the beast needs cookies.
The beast just needs food. Or to waste away.
All right, so a couple big topics in the past week or so since our last. Due to travel, this one is a little bit delayed.
Right.
From our last podcast.
Exactly.
But couple spoiler alerts. Let's get the spoiler alert stuff right out of the way. Spectre movie and Ronda Rousey.
Yeah, we're gonna talk about the UFC and the Bond movie. So if you haven't seen either of those, I mean, you should by now. It's been a while, so
yeah, we will.
You've definitely been avoiding the internet to. Not get
I will
spoiled.
put in the show notes when you can skip to. If you want to avoid these topics, we'll find out after we're finished recording how long we're speaking about it, and I'll make a note. Skip to this.
So let's do the movie first.
Movie first. All right.
So Brett hasn't seen the movie yet.
But I heard meh things, and for some reason my interest was middling to begin with. So
originally, of course, was planning on seeing the movie because I really liked Casino Royale.
Yeah.
The ones were at least decent.
Yeah,
they solid movies, enjoyable, but not amazing.
They were forgettable, but not offensive.
Yeah, they were entertaining. They were entertaining.
Yeah. Offensive in the sense, not like, oh, that offends me, but not like, I can't believe I spent money.
Right. Just you didn't walk out there feeling disgusted that you spent your money.
Right.
And to be honest, I didn't with this one either. So then I before I saw the movie, I saw Captain Capitalism, where Aaron Clary posted something about how it was a waste of money. Don't see it. But he'd also previously posted something. So I didn't know if I didn't watch his video though, because I didn't want any spoilers. So I didn't know if his gripe was that it was just shitty as a movie, or if there's some sort of like political element in it that he disagreed with.
I watched some of the video
because there was something like he originally didn't like. Well, he hadn't seen it yet, but he came out against Mad Max saying like this is some like
looks like it
could be some feminist just like
propaganda piece. Elements of that.
There was worrying it, but the movie ended up being really good. I really liked the movie. There were issues with it, but I don't think it was some sort of feminist.
I don't think it was feminist, but there was a dumb amount of like women warriors in the wasteland.
But that's everywhere nowadays.
Right?
I mean, that's in fucking.
It wasn't any worse than it usually is, unfortunately, and they all get killed by big beefy guys with chainsaw weapons of some point. It doesn't prove to them so badass. I mean, they're like the old women getting shot up, or
exactly.
They don't do some sort of superheroics. It's like what?
Right, they're not doing anything super super unrealistic. Like, is it unrealistic that Charlize Theron would, especially with one arm, would even be remotely competitive in a fight with even dehydrated Tom Hardy? Yeah, that's unrealistic. But it's not like just way way outside the realm of anything.
Right. Yeah.
Because she's just like swinging a wrench in basically nothing too crazy. She wasn't like
the
suplexing
critiques I have
stuff.
of Mad Max Fury Road are just that Mad Max was, as people already point out, kind of a side character. He was not as
regardless of who the other character was, whether it's a woman or fucking Danny DeVito.
I think Charlize Theron did a good
right, but it's just like this movie is called Mad Max, and this guy was like barely there.
Yeah, exactly. And the way Tom Hardy was instructed to play that character,
the way it was written in was just there was just nothing to it. Could have been anybody.
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
But anyways, we're not talking about Mad Max.
Right.
So that's what I was like. Maybe he just has something like against a message in there, and it could be an entertaining movie. And also, Dad wanted to see it, so I was like, "We'll go." And I was visiting him, so like, we'll just go see it. Now, my beef with the movie was there was so at risk of spoil. This isn't really a big spoiler, but they used the Spectre organization, and they do like it was really. I feel that the movie was written really like lazily, because they do like a telling instead of showing thing.
Yeah.
Where in all the other movies they would do all this setup to like show how crazy the bad guys are and like how much power they have and all this stuff would happen to try and build up to it. In this movie, all they did to like prove to you how bad that this and how like powerful and creepy this organization is just to find out that like all the other bad guys in all the other movies had just really been part of this organization.
Been working for them.
Which, first of all, doesn't make any fucking sense.
Right.
Because you have someone like the Javier Bardem character who's like a super hacker on his own island doing whatever the fuck he wants, can control any computer anywhere.
Right.
Why the hell would he be working for
something? And he was doing it to get back at
MI6. Right, which they wouldn't have just let these people go off. And then the first one,
they could have been doing business with them or something.
Right, or like Lashif is...
Well, Lashif
having
is the only
to
one that
win money. Well, that didn't even work because, like, he's like in a bind. He's supposedly under this huge organization, but he has to like go do this crazy scheme with a gambling thing to make back money that he lost to African warlords.
That's how it would work in that sense. That one was set up with the idea that there was an organization bigger than him,
but they fixed that in the second one.
Money
but they did that to the second one.
Well, they just implied that the second one was the people who also worked for that organization. Right. They did not.
I mean, that one doesn't make total nonsense, but
right.
It just doesn't. It was just a lazy way of being like, see all these really crazy, super powerful bad guys. They're really not even the big guys,
It's like,
and so in the movie, the organization
now you see my true form,
right? Never, exactly. My ninth transformation, but they never really did anything. The organization didn't really do anything in the movie. The basic plot. Do you care how much I spoil it?
No, I mean I know the basic plot is that Spectre, of course, because Spectre was in the old bonds, it's supposed to be some super criminal organization,
right?
International UN of crime kind of
thing. But that's the thing; they don't really tell you like what the crime part of it is. Right. Like, there's all the Western nations are doing a bunch of data collection, like they are in real life.
Yeah. And
Spectre is basically they're doing these terrorist attacks around the world to scare the Western nations to get under this umbrella of like a UN of global surveillance, basically, which they really control.
Right.
And you're like, okay, it sounds nefarious.
It's not a bad plot inherently.
It's not a bad plot, but I'm saying like the countries are already doing all the collection. All they're really at risk here is it being shared with Spectre.
Right.
But they never tell you like why that matters, other than like the bad guys can't have. And it's just sort of funny because like the country's already all doing this, so it's like, well, wait, let's hear these guys out. Maybe they're better at it. You know what I mean? Like, it's not scary at all that England's collecting data on all its own citizens.
It's scary,
but as soon as Spectre has that, then like, oh no, and it's like, but why?
Right, yeah.
Like, obviously, you could do a lot with it, but they didn't really get into that at all.
That's kind of funny.
They didn't actually do anything. And
Captain
it was just
America,
really,
Winter Soldier did a much better job kind of conspiracy.
Because they were like, they were going to kill everybody with it.
Right, yeah.
And take out all the dissenting opinions.
Because the idea in that was all of these governments are pushing for more and more control because they're afraid. Right. This whole time, one of the advocates for this kind of policing has been an evil organization that, because they realized you could be scared into becoming your own imprisonment.
Right.
And then we will control you, and then once we have power, we just murder off the useless people or the threatened
or just
people.
any of the dissenters and everything. Right. Yeah, but they didn't get into any of that. So obviously, I mean, that is like the implicit threat, I guess.
Right.
But that didn't even seem to be like what they cared about. Like, they could already be doing that. They didn't, you know what I mean? So it was kind of...
It seems like they got too close to the truth and had to dumb down the plot. Like,
they just didn't know. They thought that would be like epic, but it didn't. It seemed to lack like any gravitas because this stuff was already all being collected anyway, by like the MI6 people and by the other countries, and it's just like it didn't seem to like mean anything. And so then beyond that, like they had like other weird stuff. Like there was a guy that he kills in the beginning, and then who was a hitman for Spectre, and that's like he got a tip from the old M from Beyond the Grave to like go look into this guy, and that's how he gets involved.
Something in her files,
or just a video that she left. It was just everything was very ham-fisted. Like just like wedged in there. They're like, how is he going to get started in this? Oh, we'll have a tape from M that she died. It was just like, go check out this person, and that's all it says. And it's like, so did she know about this the whole time? And if she did, that would have affected all the other movies. So that's what shit like that makes no fucking sense. They're just like ham-fistedly retconning the whole thing.
Yeah.
And then anyway, so he kills the guy, and then he Monica Bellucci is the guy's wife, the assassin's wife. But even though she knows he's like a super criminal, but has no involvement in it other than that. So for whatever reason, he's like Bond like knows that Spectre's gonna kill her.
Yeah.
Somehow, and also it doesn't make any fucking sense like why they would bother. But for whatever reason,
she was not a security breach at any point.
At any point, never done anything, never involved. But as soon as the husband's dead, it's like everyone knows that they're just gonna kill her for some reason.
Yeah,
which doesn't make any sense. I mean, it's not impossible. It's just like, okay, it doesn't make any sense, and it certainly doesn't make sense why Bond would know that he just automatically knows that they're gonna kill her,
right,
for no reason. Anyways, and then so there was a couple decent action scenes and stuff, but it just lacked the. It was very meandering and kind of like lazily written. Yeah. It lacked gravitas or anything epic in the feeling for it. And the girl who ended up being like the main girl, it was basically like they set it up like she was as important to him as like the girl in the first movie, but without any of the like the build up, or it's just like all of a sudden after like one meeting, it's like they're in love or whatever,
right? Yeah,
and it's like this is fucking stupid.
Yeah,
just because it's not. I mean, I don't care if he falls in love, but
it's the kind of writing where, like I said, they tell, don't show.
Right.
They say we need him to get here, so
it's going to happen. Blah, blah, so blah. Bam, he just walks up there and everything.
Right. We want the movie to end with him running off with the girl, so we'll just inject a girl.
Yeah. You know? Right. Who's not necessarily like. Of course, they're always attractive and stuff, but not any more so than any of the others. You know what I mean? Right, like, no particular reason why this girl would be the one who wants to make him like quit and run off with her.
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
Like they at least did a much better build up in the first movie of like the back and forth, always slowly like just finding out like, fuck, I think I like this girl. Kind of thing.
Yeah. Exactly.
It's not just like dun dun, one meeting, oh, I'm gonna save your life.
Right.
Now we're best butt buddies forever.
Right. Yeah.
Even though I've like watched millions of women die after banging them and not really cared.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. I think they'll probably go back. Maybe.
Now, what I don't remember is, was this the last one on his contract, or does he have one more?
I think so. But what I was going to say is that I think they'll kind of go back. Maybe. We'll see. They'll maybe try to keep sticking with this, but maybe, if they're smart, they'll kind of go back to the charming Bond kind of...
I like Grizzly, too, but...
Right, but I mean, you can mix it up a little bit, you know, basically...
I mean, you can have both. You can have it... He has this exterior of, like, this charming... debonair kind of guy, and then has to get when he's down and dirty.
Right, when it's time to kill people, he's like
murderizes. So he sort of has to be like almost
psychotically able to
right, like
between the two.
Exactly, yeah, like almost like a sociopath or something.
Right.
But so for those people who don't know, like the Spectre thing is from the old Bonds. The guy who's played by Christoph Waltz, he plays the main guy. He plays Blofeld,
right?
Who is basically the Dr. Evil character from the old Bonds.
It
Dr. Pleasance in the old
is
Bond.
A parody of that character in the original Bond. He was in a gray suit with a bald head, and he had a cat
and a scar
on his face, and he always was petting this white cat.
Yeah, he had that like almost Bruce Lee type suit on.
Right. Yeah.
And anyway, but he just looked like normal Christoph Waltz for the whole movie until near the end he gets like blown up and then reappears with the scar on his face.
Yeah.
But then at the end of the movie, it's very anticlimactic. He like a helicopter sort of crashes and his leg is like, and he's like dragging himself out.
Yeah.
And he's surrounded by all the cops, and then Bond's like gonna shoot him, and he's like, "Oh fuck it, I'm gonna leave with my bitch instead."
Right.
And that's just like, so he's just there still. But
right. Yeah.
So I don't know. I assume they were gonna make another movie with him reappearing.
Maybe, I don't know. I thought this
was sort of anticlimactic.
Maybe he signed up for 5, not 4.
The last time he did an extension was 3, but I don't remember when that was.
That must have been after the first.
It was either Skyfall was. I mean, this one was either the last one or there's one more. I thought it signed up for Skyfall, this one, and one more, but it may have been.
I don't know. Whatever.
Yeah. And I couldn't find out.
On to the next spoiler content discussion.
Yeah, so I wouldn't waste $10. You could watch, but I wouldn't waste $10.
Well, that was my assessment from other people's much less involved descriptions. Is I'll see it on rental at some point instead. Right. The recent UFC fights, Ronda Rousey, 193. And everything else.
2 title fights. Ronda Rousey.
Of course, the other title fight I can't even remember because it was eclipsed.
It was Joanna Jacek and Valerie Letourneau for the strawweight 115-pound championship.
Right, but
which is also is on paper was as equal of a mismatch. It was two like supposed to be squash matches.
Yeah.
For the 2 women's title fights.
Yeah.
So if you don't know, don't listen. But so in the main event, obviously, I, along with a lot of other people, thought that it was going to be Rousey by a landslide because of their skill sets. Now, I knew that if she tried to just straight up box with her, it would be bad. But I assume that I assume that she would at least be competent enough that if she started getting the worst of it, she would be like, all right, this isn't working. I'm just going to grapple fuck the shit out of you.
Right.
And eventually win. I don't think there's any way. Holly Holm showed awesome takedown defense.
Right.
But
I
still don't think that there's any way that if Ronda was like, I'm just going to make this a 5-round grappling match, I don't think there's any way that she could win that. That Holm could win that.
Right. Well, here's what I'll say about that.
Yeah.
Is I think that is one of the things, and what's funny is you've seen this before, this paradigm play out that I'm about to describe in the men's division, but the women's division hasn't really seen it yet because it's not as big. There's not as many competitors.
Like BJ Penn and Frankie Edgar fight where he's just like losing at the boxing and refusing to do anything else.
Right.
Just gets in love with it.
Right. Yeah.
Because it's working.
But not only that is you get the scenario where when UFC began, when MMA began,
right.
grappling became such a huge thing because all of a sudden these guys could demolish these stand-up guys who used to sit there and just trade with people because it's the only way they were. Yeah. Nobody knew what grappling was for a long time. It just wasn't part of the fight game for decades.
Right.
You know, even though grappling has been part of the fighting arts throughout all of human history, it wasn't part of the fight game for decades.
Well, they either had like grappling as a sport or fighting. And
right,
fighting was always just
artificially
striking.
separated.
Yeah, for no reason.
They had artificially separated.
Like there were judo guys, there were wrestlers, but they never faced each other.
Right, yeah.
They always
faced
artificially separated. Either you grapple or you're fighting.
Right.
Fighting was kickboxing, boxing, and taekwondo and stuff like that.
In sport, it had been artificially separated.
Right.
So then it all of a sudden became this rock paper scissors of stand up beats grappling unless you get them to the ground, then that beats your stand up because your stand up's neutralized and all that kind of stuff. But then what you started to see was the weakness of the grapplers was if the strikers could stuff a takedown, all of a sudden they're not dominated.
And then you have guys like Krokop doing the sprawl and brawl,
right?
Chuck Liddell,
yeah.
Who if they can if they can't get them down, then they're just getting like blowed out for the whole rest of the fight.
Right, yeah, exactly. Or you get the people, and then you start to see that what becomes the strength of the wrestling game or the grappling game is really just the fact that they can stuff it for points. They can control the person down on the ground. If the person can get where you can't finish them, but you can still win by simply stuffing. The problem with Rousey is she was used to one round, grabbing them and getting them, and then if that didn't work, she had no other tool set. So this person stuffed those attempts.
Well, that's the thing. That's what messed her up is that she thought she did because her last few fights she'd actually won with her strikes.
Yeah.
So she thought she was this great striker, and when it comes to striking, or basically when it comes to any skill, if you say something like football, like tackling, there's like ways you're supposed to do that correctly,
right?
But there's also just the act of getting them down as a tackle. So someone can be super effective at tackling without actually doing it correctly,
right? Just because of other factors.
So Ronda Rousey she's very athletic, she's fast, and she's strong. So she was hurting people with her strikes. So she was an effective, dangerous striker, but she was never good at boxing.
Right.
And so because she was hurting people,
because she was trained in boxing,
hurting people with her strikes, she thought she was a good striker, which doesn't necessarily mean the same thing.
Right.
Like if you have someone coming in with a sword and just every time they swung, it breaks other people's sword and cuts through cuts them open, they're going to think they're a good fighter or a sword play when they're effective, but they're not actually good at the skill set.
Right.
So you see someone come along who's used to dealing with that. And the worst, she just displayed horrible fight IQ because I knew that was the case. Yeah. But I also thought that if that happened, she would be like, "Oh, I'm getting busted up here. I'm going to
just take it to the ground."
Take it to the ground.
Well, that's my point.
But she started fighting like a drunk stepdad who's like chasing a kid who just pranked them.
Right.
And she was getting clowned because like there was one fight.
But part of it too is that the couple times she did decide, "Oh, I just got to take it down," the other person.
Well, it was at that point. She'd already been like blasted a couple times and it was frantic and desperate. She wasn't really. It was just everything she did was too rushed and too not even desperate, but just too angry, I guess.
Right.
And so by the time she should have done that, she'd been like all busted up and rocked a few times, and then home to set up a beautiful head kick.
Oh yeah, it looked so good.
It was straight. It was perfect. Krokop left high kick.
Right. Yeah. And just the way she flopped afterwards was just like...
that's the best part of it. It's like, boom.
She didn't even...
But like I saw when she was
stagger. She just fell like a tree.
She hit her with the left and she went down and was like... The way Rousey was getting up to turn, you could tell that Holm was setting up the kick. And I was like, that must be such a good feeling to know, like... For like a full 2 seconds, you're like, this is it. I got it.
Right,
and you just know, like, as you're swinging your leg, like, this is it. It's going to happen.
Those moments where, like, everything for the person seems to slow down, and you can see where the person's going to be in 2 seconds.
Like, I know this
so
is
you
it.
just line up your foot
because she didn't even bother, like, grabbing her or throwing strikes. She just, like, took a step back, put a hand on her back, and, like, as she was turning, set up the left high kick. And boom. It reminds me of the fight with Nate Diaz and Kurt Pellegrino where he locked in a triangle choke.
Yeah.
And then, like, instantly after he locked it in, he knew he had it. So he just, like... double bird flipped off the crowd. Like, yes! And before he even tapped out, and then the guy was like, and had to finally tap out because he just could feel it.
Yeah, so you get the flow, you see the momentum, and you just
So obviously it exposed. And Rousey's trainer is a fucking idiot yes man who's always just like they have him even in like the comments afterward was like, I don't think she outstruck her per se. Like, what the fuck are you talking about?
Exactly what happened.
Like Mike Tyson with a child when it came to the striking. Like, Rousey's striking is not technically good.
Right.
And you can either fix
She's relied on just her athletic strength and everything.
It's been effective, but it's not because she's technically proficient. Right. So you can either fix it and work on it until it is proficient, or realize your limitations and work around them. realize that you're not going to
technically
outstrike someone who's been a professional boxer for and like multiple belts.
Like every boxing. Fighter, you can go for well-rounded or you can go for strong and specialized.
I mean, you can be both, but I mean, each fight you have to make.
Well, right. But I mean, to an extent, everybody's specialized at something as their strength.
Right.
And then, but I mean, like some of the most dominating fighters are pretty well-rounded. But not everybody's like that. Some of them are very good at something, and then they're good at defending where they're weak.
All of them, good at attacking. All of them have something that they're super good at.
Right.
And that's when guys like GSP was always super good because he wouldn't just he would always wrestle them obviously, but it wouldn't just be like if you go out there and be like instantly he's going to take me down. That's all he's ever going to try. He would mix it up so well, punch, and then as soon as they think like, oh, we're punching now, boom, he take them down.
Right.
And then as soon as they were like, oh, I'm stopping shots now, boom, they're getting blasted in the face.
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
So stuff like that.
Learning to set up his opponents on their expectations of him in the past.
If she realizes that her striking technique is shit, and just goes out there and fights smart, I think she could not easily, but she definitely could win.
I'm kind of glad. I mean, personally, I'm just kind of glad that it happened. Yeah. Just because I found her to be a bit of a loudmouth.
She is. I don't like her personally. I love watching her fights.
No, yeah, she's good at what she does.
This one wasn't good though. She looked like a chump because she was just so But
that's what I mean. That's why I didn't like I said, I don't care if a fighter is a bit braggadocious. When you are top of the crop, you have a right to a certain amount of bravado.
Yeah, one of the people saying I'm the greatest. One of the people yelling I'm the greatest is right. So
yeah, exactly. But there's a certain amount of hubris that comes into play that will cause exactly what we saw.
But for me, it's not even I don't mind pride. I don't like the fact that she thought she was good at striking.
Right, yeah. That's what
if you're just I'll fuck hubris. You up. I don't care if I'm shitty at striking.
Yeah, exactly.
Or hey, I'm still knocking people out. Deal with it. But to actually people
also,
saying that she could box,
I appreciate some of the greatest champions in all sports and in UFC in particular. There's many good things. It's not even that they're humble; they're just good sportsmen. I don't consider GSP or Randy Couture or Anderson the Spider Silva is necessarily humble.
Right?
But
no, not at all.
They were not Silva. Assholes. They were not.
Well, the thing is, I mean,
they were just not dummies with their
words.
Because
there's some people, and this may be more true with the women. I don't know. I'm not an expert on girl brain.
Right.
But to have some people can just get in there. All business. They don't need to psych themselves up to punch them in the face.
Yeah.
But there's other people who sort of have to be angry and to be able to literally fight someone.
Yeah, but I think that's what's part of the fighting game in general is also managing your own emotions. Now, if you have to psych yourself up, then psych yourself up. But you also need to understand that just like training in your weaknesses and enhancing your strengths, your pre- and post-game emotions is part of that process.
I know, but there's a money element too.
Yeah.
And
that's part of it is promotion.
Some of it's promotion. I mean, when you're saying you'll get an extra $1.5 million if you act like a dick before the fight.
There you go. I will grant you that. I will grant you that. Yes. There you go. There's some theater to it.
WWE, when they're man, these hate each other. I need to see this fight.
Yeah.
Okay, I'd do it for money.
Yeah,
too.
exactly.
But there's a way to do it good, I think, too.
Right, yeah.
Like Conor McGregor acts like a giant dick, and I know he's doing that shit on purpose.
There's a certain amount of, there's the guy you can tell it's kind of with a smirk.
Right,
and
that's the difference. Ronda
Rousey
just comes across as all butthurt about it.
Yeah.
Not just I'm going to fuck this guy up and fuck his wife. Big style.
Right, yeah,
you know what I mean? It's
she
comes across as all kind of pouty and butthurt about it.
There you go.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's the thing that rubs me the wrong way. Not that she's kind of a dick about it, but just that she comes across kind of petulant. You know what I mean?
Exactly. That's exactly it. Yeah. You get the petulant, braggadocious people,
I think,
and you get the smarmy,
but I think I just think she has trouble separating her real emotions from that stuff. So when she does it, I think it really gets in her head. You know what I mean? And it helps her be a super aggressive fighter.
That's part of the fighting game. It's any high level sport. Controlling your emotions, the speech in the movies, sports movies, we're in the locker room, we're down. Yeah. You have to psych yourself back up.
Right.
Controlling your own emotional momentum is part of competition.
Exactly.
So I grant you that.
Now the good thing though too is that because there was a situation in the division where Miesha Tate was the perennial number 2 contender. She basically was beating everyone else but Ronda Rousey. She already fought Ronda Rousey twice, so a third fight didn't really make a lot of sense because she lost both times. But she was the obvious number 2 contender. Right, the only person she hasn't fought in the division that's any good and beat is Holly Holm.
Right.
So they originally were going to give Miesha Tate the next shot after her last fight, and they basically told her that, and then they're like, "Oh, never mind, we're going to do Holly Holm instead." And so she was all pissed off about that. But now it makes sense because now I think instead of giving Rousey an immediate rematch, which doesn't really. I like the immediate rematches when there's something that was like a question about the fight. Like maybe if she walked out there and like she was doing really good, and then one big punch KO'd her, then you'd be like, oh man, that fight could have gone a bunch of different ways. Like she just schooled her from opening bell to the end of it. So I'm like, give her a little time. And then also you could have Miesha Tate fight. I don't even know if Miesha Tate would win because Holmes' takedown defense looked awesome.
Yeah.
But she does different types of takedowns too, and she's more relentless about it than Rousey was in that fight.
Yeah,
like she'll just from bell to bell, she'll be like trying to.
See, that's one of those things about like situations like Rousey's, and there's plenty of other people, so not just harping on her here. Plenty of people you've seen in the fight game that fall into this. They get really good and used to that success. They don't know how to adapt when it doesn't work.
Exactly, because she's used to super pressure, and then they give her something, and she doesn't need much to get something, but she's got to get something. She's not good at just like grinding. She's never had a grinding.
She's never had to grind it down.
Yeah,
and you
like
get some people, you can tell they may not look as cool because they don't just dominate somebody.
Like a John Fitch or somebody who's just swarming you, just like they can't do anything. They're all on your ass the whole time, and just not the way she fought. She could do that. I mean, like she could grapple with people, and but she just needs to do that. She needs to turn it into a judo match and not even bother trying to punch the girl.
Right. In situations where you realize you can't, you have to be able to adapt and look at this person. Okay, this is not working. My method for beating them now will simply be to stop
Holm had two lackluster decisions in the UFC before this. She had a couple awesome knockouts outside the UFC, but like she fought like Raquel Pennington, I think, and other people who were primarily boxing oriented, and just won decent decisions, but nothing because they were just not. But then Rousey came in and gave her basically the fight on a plate by acting a fool and running around, like flailing her limbs,
trying to prove she could beat her at her own game, kind of thing, or something. Maybe I don't know what the idea was.
She just thought she was a good boxer, and then by the time she found out, she'd been like clocked a few good times.
She was just walking stunned at that point,
right? And also, I think Holm is one of the biggest and athletically gifted people that she's faced anyway.
Yeah.
And then, so she finds out from her that because she actually was bigger than Ronda, and she's pretty ripped up.
All right,
too.
But anyway, anything else on that?
Before we wrap up? Miesha Tate, it works either way because if Miesha Tate loses to Holm, then like, all right, cool, Rousey will be ready, then you can sell the rematch. And if she wins, then you can sell that fight because Rousey doesn't have the belt. So if she wins, it means something. If she won before, it was just a third fight with Miesha Tate. It didn't make any sense. So then Miesha could have a chance at the belt, and either fight afterwards makes more sense.
Oh, I would agree. Yeah. I mean,
but I think they'll do the rematch. I think there's too much. I think they have too much of a desire to get her as the champ for monetary purposes.
Rousey?
Yeah,
because she's popular. But I think they're underestimating how much some people will flock to Holm after if you give her time.
That too, but also I think what they would be making a mistake is if, say they do the rematch in 4 months, if Rousey hasn't got her shit under control, like mentally, and loses again, then they're like, well,
sunk that moneymaker.
And now she has to have like 2 or 3 more fights to. But I mean, she would beat everyone else still. So it would eventually happen, but I think it would be better to have a rematch when...
Yeah, the comeback story is better if there's like a road to victory.
A little bit of a build-up, and not just an immediate rematch.
Right, yeah.
But she came out and said she was going to take a little bit of time off, which makes it... And she said probably till UFC 200, this is 193. Yeah. And there's about one a month. So, 7 months. And that would probably be perfect, because 200 is a big number. They'd probably want a big fight, the rematch. Right, yeah. You could probably squeeze one in between, try to get Miesha Tate fighter between them now and then.
Right, yeah.
That's what I would do.
So what is the next one? Like
the next one, there's so many now. It's hard.
It's hard.
It's funny because I thought I was like just not being as good of a fan because I couldn't remember all the fighters' names.
Yeah.
And I was listening to a podcast with
like, who the fuck are these people?
Joe Rogan. It was
Joe Rogan doesn't know who.
Well, yeah, Joe Rogan and Eddie Bravo, and it was the Joe Rogan fight podcast or whatever, and he was just like. He said there's over 500 people on the UFC roster now. Now, a lot of them are not fighting regularly. Like, when they go do a show in Macau or something, they'll get some local fighters and or sign them to
they have a lot of, like, bench fighters.
But still, like, these are fighters who have fought in the UFC or have probably active contracts and have a record. So, yeah, there's 500. So, I'm like, I don't feel bad for not knowing anymore. But Eddie Bravo is funny because he was like, it used to be like back in the day, you'd be at some guy, be like, man, I'm a UFC fighter. And they're like, no, you're not, dude. Yeah, like, I know all the UFC fighters, and he's like, nowadays the guy says he's like, shit, maybe, right? Yeah, exactly. You see a guy in the street,
maybe, like local ring
maybe he did a fight in fucking Rio or
Belfast
something. Yeah, exactly. Like shit, maybe. Some guy at a bar, like, I'm a UFC fighter. Yeah, maybe he is. How the fuck would I know? Right. Joe Rogan didn't even know.
All right, so what's the time code on there?
We're about 30 minutes.
About 30 minutes. Okay, it's cool. So for those of you just getting here. This is the point at which we told you to come back to avoid spoilers. So let's
make it an even 30 because we're at 29. and 43 seconds.
Okay.
So
well, I'm just a little preamble here, and we can fill it up. But
right.
So, yeah, like at 30 seconds. So we're stopping talking about spoiler material
show
now.
Notes.
We'll put it in the show notes. And just a reminder to us as we're talking, can't fall back on any spoilers.
Okay,
on
so
those
no Spectre, no UFC.
No UFC.
So now we're at the 30-minute mark. So if you guys
Spoilers
have come in
over.
now, we're not going to talk about UFC, and we're not going to talk about the Bond movie at all. So if you were worried about that for some reason, you don't have to worry about it.
And now, unfortunately, the rest of it is probably less entertaining. Less boring. The world is shit,
the world is shit, and so are you.
Right, yeah.
Life sucks and then you die portion of the podcast.
Right, yeah. Welcome. Aren't you glad you skipped the spoilers?
Yeah, exactly.
First thing,
I recommend that you just go right now, ignore this part, go watch Spectre and UFC, and then come back and watch the first half of the podcast.
Because now we're going to talk about all Paris
somber,
and some other things.
Somber and do.
So actually,
don't you technically say dour as doer? Isn't that the correct way to pronounce it?
Not that I believe.
I think so. I think it's one of those weird ones. How
maybe it used
like
to be,
the
but
real
I've
ways,
always
like
heard
in
dour.
I know, but I mean, it's one of those like the word air, like ERR. You're supposed to say technically.
Yeah, but I mean that's the difference between English, American English.
No, I'm just
and
saying like the correct way of saying it. Like, because like in what is it called with Charles Hurton Esther, Power Vocab or whatever they call it, Vocal Advantage. That's what it was called.
Yeah.
He stole these not fake, but the real pronunciations. Like, I'm not going to say I'm sorry.
Yeah.
No one's going to even know what you're saying.
Right, yeah.
But I think dour is actually pronounced doer, but I hate saying that because people don't know what you're saying.
But dour is fitting because it sounds like sour, so there's this automatic association.
Like you make a face.
You know what that person is acting like. You can taste those emotions. That dour bastard. Right, yeah. Exactly. You can just see the face the person's making.
It conjures it up so much better than doer, because I'm like, a doer?
Right, yeah. You mean they're accomplishing things?
Right,
no. No.
Yeah, so France got all blowed out.
Right. So now, honestly, there's not even that much to say about this other than, of course, the predictable things that came afterwards.
Obviously. Dude, did you see the one that Chateau Artiste posted that, like, I think it was someone in America, but the bodies were still warm, and they said, we stand with Paris and and I shit you not, they said they're diverse, multicultural.
That was
society.
Obama.
That was Obama?
Yeah, he was like, I swear you to you, that was Obama. Like,
look it up.
Before the president of France even came on and did a statement, America was making
You couldn't even just say nothing like, we stand with France. They had to fucking force it in there when the bodies were still warm.
Right, like, please don't notice what caused this problem.
Right, exactly.
Folks.
Like, it was basically saying, I was joking around because I was like, French minister said this, and said their comments, and like, the Belgian minister said this, and Obama says, Allahu Akbar. I mean...
exactly. Yeah. But the things that got me after, of course, is the inevitable super swift Facebook filter, we stand with Paris. And I'm like...
You know what's funny, though? Oh, shit, I can't
let
say
me
it.
Finish
it goes back to the spoilers.
What's so stupid about it, of course, is this trite way. Just like exactly what it is. It's so symbolic in its own way that it doesn't realize. Yeah. It's a filter on top of it. That's the level of support you're showing.
Yeah.
A crust over top of what
you're doing. There was a hilarious...
But the other thing, of course, is like you're not supporting Paris in any way by saying, I stand with Paris, and having a Facebook thing about we feel for it. You're only supporting Paris if you call for the repatriation and expulsion of all peoples that...
I mean, there's a lot of ways you can actually support... I think... There was I think it was on the Minimalist website of all people, but there was, my girlfriend was actually telling me just the other day about this one comedian who likes to do really...
provocative?
Really, this offensive type humor.
Yeah.
And he even said, where's the quote? It's always good. It's really good here. Okay. And they mentioned it on this because it's so good. And there was another article I read not long ago about, it was a psychology article, about how nowadays people feel like this isn't just like them saying it. Like, they feel that they've actually done something by posting about it on Facebook. They feel like that's an action.
Exactly.
It's not. It's a statement.
Right.
It's still, just because it's written...
But that's all virtue signaling is the only thing that people
so, obviously,
do or care about.
expatriating is something that we agree should be done. But even if you disagree with that, you give them money, something is an actual action. Whether or not it helps or not can be argued, but those are actions.
Right.
Saying is not action.
Right.
But anyways, this is the quote that the guy said. Anthony Jeselnik, and he's just known for doing really horrible tweets right after tragedies and stuff.
Right.
And he says his comment that he'd done earlier was, when something horrible happens, everybody runs to social media and writes the exact same thing. My thoughts and prayers are with the victims. Do you know what that's worth? Fucking nothing. Less than nothing. You aren't giving any of your time, your money, or even your compassion. all you're saying is, don't forget about me today.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Ergo, let's do more than post a stock photo of a peace sign on social media. Let's find ways to contribute beyond ourselves. Yeah, but that's what it was. Like the gay marriage, it's all just like, hey, I'm here. I'm noticing what's going on in the world. I'm part of this. And they're not on the right side of this. Like I said, there's a psychological bias of some kind that people feel like that's an action. Because they move their hands
also,
and type
society
keys,
has
it feels like you did something.
Trained and pushed to behave that way these days. That like the signaling is the important part. I'm with the herd.
That's what I mean. That's why you see people like fucking Michelle Obama hold up a hashtag.
Right.
Let's get our girls back. I'm like, you sit across the dinner table from the goddamn president of the United States.
Why don't you tell him?
Who are you telling to bring our girls back?
Right. Yeah, exactly.
But that's why it's not even. That's not the train of thought. It's that the act of showing it is the action.
The act of conforming to the crowd.
It's not that she's really asking anyone, hey, please bring our girls back. Because if she was, she'd be asking her fucking husband.
Right.
And that is the action, is posting the picture.
Right,
I feel like that's the action.
The action is really not to signal even your own virtue, even though it's called virtue signaling. It is to show to the crowd,
I'm part of the herd. Yeah.
I'm part of you.
I'm not
I'm thinking the right thoughts.
Right.
I'm doing the...
I'm also thinking...
Double plus good.
Yeah, double plus good. Not crime
Eurasia is against whatever us.
Yeah, East Asia has always been at war with Eurasia.
Yeah.
Exactly. So that it's so annoying. But yeah, other than that, there's not much to say. Other than and it wasn't Obama. It was the Pentagon chief.
Oh, okay.
Says, quote,
Obama said something very similar.
The United States stands with the people of France and its vibrant multicultural democracy.
Dear God.
Can you believe that shit?
Yeah.
That they might as well say, Pentagon chief says the United States stands with the people of France and their extremist Muslim population.
Yeah. Exactly, yeah. And
that's literally what they're saying.
Muslim population.
And it's funny because I had another friend who said, what did France ever do to anybody? And I'm like, they let in too many Muslims.
Right, yeah, exactly.
And I was telling one of my other friends last night that, I'm in no way happy that anyone would get blown up, even if they were like a raging liberal. Yeah. But I feel the same way I do if I see some guy who had like a pet tiger gets attacked or something. I'm like,
what were you thinking?
Yeah, what the fuck did you think was going to happen?
Yeah, if you're like,
I'm not happy that they get mauled, but I'm just like,
a tiger in the face,
well,
like,
shit,
come
man,
on,
the guys who
baby.
hug the panda.
Right.
I mean, see, the thing is, it's not even people who provoke it. This is like a dad has a pet tiger and it mauls their kids.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like
that's the best.
That's the shitty
analogy.
part about it.
The dad is the government, and they keep inviting in these like. Ooh, we're going to get a whole bunch of rats. My kids are sick now.
Yeah, we're going to have a pet rattlesnake and a pet tiger, and like, shit, they're eating all my kids. But, it's important to have a nice pet population that's diverse.
Right, yeah. Diverse pet population is...
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean...
Ridiculous.
I mean, somebody else in some article I read, put it in like, heaven forbid we notice these problems as, part of multiculturalism and immigration. It's like, that might stop everybody from importing enough unemployed to drive wages down. You know, like that's that's definitely part of it. It's definitely part. But more of it is just, as we said before, the pathology of these people. Right. They feel that they have to do this to be good. They can't notice. Like the idea of not judging is so strong that you can't even notice outcomes. Yeah. You know what I mean? You can't even look at it and understand the consequences.
Yeah, you're not even allowed to acknowledge a cause and effect situation,
or even correlations. You can't even notice correlations.
Yeah. But I mean, correlations are even a little more tenuous. You're literally not allowed to notice, like, when this happens, this happens.
Well, that's true, yeah. You can't say, I pull this lever and it hits me in the nuts with a hammer.
Yeah,
and, you can't say that. That's racist against that lever.
Right, because I was just saying the same thing. Like, people will say, like, they make such value statements, like, that you're not even allowed to say that, like, AIDS is mostly transmitted by gay sex or something. Even though it's, like, overwhelming. Like, the chances of... that you just can't say that, even though knowing how it works and being honest about it. It's like
it's the best thing to prevent it.
Yeah, how are you going to fit if you're not even being honest about how the situation is working? How do you ever hope to accomplish anything?
Right.
Just like I mean, you don't have to say that you think gay sex is bad or care at all to know that that's how it's mostly transmitted is gay sex and intravenous drug use. Right. So instead, they'd rather be like, anyone can get it. Right. Just be careful. It's not just a gay
thing. It's in the air.
And so treating it like that is worse because then people aren't necessarily even know the truth about it.
It's forcing ignorance because they don't like their own truth, or the real truth.
Or they'd be like saying, like, cholera isn't just something from shit water.
Right.
You could get it from Zephyr Hills and Publix, too. And it's
saying cholera comes from water is racist against South America. Right, exactly. So you can't say it comes from the water.
Yeah, and you can't. No. You can't really. It doesn't really come from anywhere else.
Right, yeah. You're not getting it.
And this whole not all Muslims are like that is a meaningless platitude. It doesn't fucking matter.
It doesn't matter.
At this point, there's enough of them that do this, that you have to treat it like that's a possibility.
It doesn't matter what the Muslims do. Islam does this. You know what I mean? Like the
well, no, I mean I almost think the opposite. Like people are like they're not truly following Islam's teaching, and I'm like that doesn't matter. The point is that a lot of people who identify as Muslims, doesn't matter what Islam says, the people do this.
You can look at it both ways. I would argue it is both. Yeah, like from a purely
I think
scientifically logical sense.
Read the Quran and see.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying. Like I think Islam
that's
as a religion purports.
It didn't even matter
but
if they were religious
even if
or
it
not.
didn't, exactly. Even if it didn't, cause and effects statistics bear out. Any nation that gets a significant enough Muslim population starts getting this stuff.
That's what's so weird. It's just like, don't tell me that I'm wrong. Fucking defy the facts. Like if you have proof that these terrorist attacks are being done by people other than Muslims, lay it on me. I'm ready.
I will stack up. I will go through history in the past 10 years only. Let's just say the past 10 years. And I will list the number of times that Muslim terrorist attack happens, and you tell me how many Buddhist, Protestant,
let's
Catholic, Hindu, or whatever terrorist
attacks. If you're so fucking
occurred.
sure, let's make a bet. And for the next 10 terrorist attacks that occur in the world,
I will bet they're Muslim.
Yeah, and you can bet that there's something else.
Right, yeah,
you can put your money where your mouth is.
Right, yeah. I'll put $100.
Yeah, exactly.
$100 on each one.
Yeah, exactly. We can put $100 on each one, and every time they're not Muslim, then you win. And every time they are, I win.
Right.
So, and that's the thing, is that regardless of what the percentage is of people that are real Muslims or peaceful, it's high enough that you can make a predictive model for this.
Exactly.
And it needs to change your behavior if you're smart.
And
just like the example I use is like if you're wandering if you're wandering in the woods, maybe 1 out of 100 bears, probably even less, is actually going to attack you.
Right.
Just by being there.
But the
consequences are so dire that you have to treat the group of bears as a dangerous thing and act accordingly.
Exactly. And not only that,
set this up for
the chance of you being attacked in the woods is 99% chance. If you are attacked, it is a bear. Even though that's only 10%.
And that's what I was saying last night.
Attacking.
Like it may be only that 5% of Muslims are doing anything, but 100% of the attacks are Muslims.
Right.
So it doesn't matter. And there's also billions of them, so 5% or whatever is still a fucking lot. And those happen to be the ones that are flooding into these other countries.
Yep. And they're taking advantage of it, and it's been proven these guys
are Syrian refugees.
Syrian quote-unquote refugees.
Ridiculous.
They saw an opportunity
to get in the
country.
saying that this is just diversity is our strength. But that doesn't even mean anything.
No.
How would you prove that? What does that even mean?
It's a
platitude. It means nothing. But I'm like, if I were to go to those people and say, all right, let's say the opposite. If I say diversity is weakness, you would say I'm wrong. It's like, so prove me wrong. What even metric are you even using?
Right.
It's a self-fulfilling thing. You say diversity is important because if you don't have any, it's bad.
Right.
You know what I mean? It begs the question.
Here's one thing that, of course, a lot of people will say, and I kind of agree with, like, people who try to cry, well we go over there and mess with those countries and stuff, and exactly. Like, okay, yeah, you're right. We should stop doing that.
I do agree.
We should stop supporting these things that become
But who's France messing with?
Well, they recently helped in the coalition with bombing.
I know, but that's not why they're doing this.
No. They would have done that whether it happened or not.
Yeah.
That
was Sweden. Nice Who the fuck is Sweden invading?
Yeah.
The rape capital of the Western world.
Right. Sweden, never involved in any of this shit.
Exactly.
You know.
And they've been letting people in droves.
Right.
And now they're the fucking rape capital of the Western world.
The point is, you get people, it's always proven that you get the people from the countries that aren't doing well in their home country. Some of that could be that, maybe they're persecuted or whatever, but the main thing is if you just take... En masse, it never works. It never works in mass because, whether, like we've said before, whether it's what happened in America, en masse white people from Europe showed up.
It destroys
and I think it turned out to be a better country than it was. I'm not one of these people that thinks the holy, untainted barbarians of American,
Not to interrupt you, the one thing I always say is, this is like the Indians, and I'm like, oh, what country did we immigrate to then? What country was that?
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's my point.
They're the ones who claimed you couldn't own the land.
Right, yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So which country exactly were the white people immigrating to?
Right. They didn't claim we couldn't own the land. We said, okay, cool. We'll take it then.
Yeah, exactly. No,
guess you don't
you
mind,
can't own the land.
Yeah. It's like,
of course I can.
I'm not a penniless hippie.
Yeah,
exactly.
I can't own property, dude.
Of course
I can. I'm not a penniless hippie.
Right. Yeah, but anyway,
honestly though, as disturbing as this may sound, this attack now will probably save lives. Versus if there wasn't a major attack and it just went on with and crazy crime increases, just murders here and there, one person at a time.
Overall, you get more deaths.
More deaths, yeah, because
over the years.
They wouldn't stop the invasion for maybe even years. Now at least people realize this caused people to realize.
Right.
So hopefully it'll save lives
if your
long
appendix
term.
bursts versus you slowly die of cancer,
right?
Which one are you going to notice and go to the hospital for?
Yeah, a big tumor versus and have to lose an arm versus not knowing about the cancer in you until you die.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. And so, as sad as that is, like
at least the symptom bubbled to the surface and proves to people that like this is a problem.
Sometimes I think that when I look at these terrorist acts, I'm like, you realize you're stupid. You're only strengthening your opposition. Now, of course, they don't realize
smart.
that.
They would just wait for another 5 years until they were half the country, and then there's nothing you can do.
But they're so used to the West being so weak in their response that they just realize they think, weakness, I'll stab there.
Well,
but
they
were already quote unquote winning by flooding with people, and so
someone that I know on Facebook posted of something that said like, don't hate the Muslims. It's what ISIS wants because that's how they recruit. And they're like, if you hate Muslims, ISIS wins.
I've seen plenty of those. That would be the next thing I was going to say.
And I commented. I said, this doesn't make any.
See how unracist I am.
They'd rather shoot. Their bodies are still fucking dead. And instead of being like, why the fuck are you killing people? They're saying to us, don't hate the ones who are killing people just because they killed people. They're not all bad.
Right. Yeah.
But I responded. I was like, that doesn't make any sense. I was like, I must have missed the part where they went through the theater and let the people go who loved Muslims.
Right, yeah, exactly. Yeah.
They don't fucking care.
Yeah.
They will not be happy until every person on the planet is either converted or killed.
Right.
They don't care if you think that they should be able to have their own Muslim churches. They will fucking kill you.
Right, and like I said, like not all Muslims are that's great. They can fight.
It's great and irrelevant, right? And they can fight. Yeah,
it's their culture, their country.
And it's also they're the ones who have to explain what's going on, not us.
Right?
Why do we have to be the apologist? Why do white people have to be the apologists for the
ills of their country?
Or for the Muslim extremists?
Yeah.
Why are white people running around saying why it's only a small percentage? Why are they're keeping their mouths shut?
Right. They're not defending or denying them. You know,
some of them are, but the point is like. This isn't an issue that like we have to rationalize
I think that's one of the things
something
about
that you guys need to address
about the whole thing that people forget is just because a lot of them are quote unquote peaceful, like they don't have the desire to go waste or risk that much of their life.
A big percentage of them would hit the button and say convert the world.
Right, yeah. You know and not only that, they're certainly happy to move to these countries once their violent brothers have taken it over or made room.
They're not actively
It was the same thing with the Vikings. Right. The majority of the Vikings were not raiders.
Like pillagers.
Most of them were not Viking warriors like we think of the Vikings. Right. But
they're just villagers.
Technically, most of them weren't Vikings because Viking is the name for their raiding group. Like that, as a people, they did not call themselves Vikings. The Vikings were their warriors.
Right.
But the Norwegian, the Swedish, whatever people, they certainly benefited from having their crazy motherfuckers on the front line taking stuff and money and then coming back and making room for new settlements and having the spoils from other countries. You know. And you could say, not all of the people of the Viking lands are like that.
Right.
Of course not. But so fucking what?
It just doesn't matter. Yeah. I mean, it just is a meaningless thing because it doesn't...
Their influence
still, every single one is.
Their violence still changed history, you know? Just because not all the people that they were related to were like that.
There's two sides to it. It's kind of like not all white people are serial killers, not even close to it, but all serial killers are white.
Pretty much, yeah.
Like it's when they make a profile and they say, here's the pattern that's involved. Our profile is a white male.
Right. There's just not that many black or Hispanic males.
I don't go to black people and be like, wait a second, why is the FBI saying all serial killers are white? Explain this to me. This is racism. We're the ones who should be like, why the fuck are white people serial killers?
Right, yeah, exactly what we are. I mean, that's the thing. That paradigm only applies to white people. We have to explain everybody else's things.
But, I mean, I just don't care because it's true, and it just doesn't fucking matter. You know what I mean?
Yeah, the other, we kind of just touched on, but the other response to media, of course, that the flow of the tweets and the YouTube and the media and Facebook. It was funny to watch it up until today. Is how many days past the event?
Well, it happened on Thursday. Thursday night, I thought.
Was it Thursday night or Friday?
Thursday night.
Okay, so Thursday.
No. Friday night.
It was Friday night. Yeah, it was Friday night. So Friday the 13th is when it happened.
Oh yeah, you're right. Yeah, it was Friday the 13th.
And so
apparently the last one for
several
a few years.
days passed.
Last Friday the 13th for a few years or something.
Yeah. But several days now have passed. It's been at least 5 days, you know.
Saturday, Sunday, Monday. It's been 3 days. 3 whole days.
3 days. Okay, 3 or 4 days.
This is the
about
fourth
day. This is 4 days of media coverage and stuff. But it was funny to watch the paradigm go. Okay, the first one, of course, was just shock and getting details and getting the facts. First day, almost immediately, you know, the "We Stand with France" stuff. Yeah. Then, so like the first wave was "We Stand with France" Facebook filter of the French flag, peace symbols made out of the Eiffel Tower and all that jazz.
Yeah.
Then it was the wave of, you know, kind of talking, like getting dangerously close to talking about immigration and people trying to shut that down. And then it was Now it's the wave of virtue signaling that I'm not one of those races like
I
stop
would
the
still
hate.
let all the Muslim immigrants
I would
in
still
my
all the Muslim.
neighborhood.
Yeah, exactly. I literally,
I just saw that.
I think we're talking about the same person here. Yeah,
I think so.
on Facebook.
Yeah,
I was like, God. I just want to
feel free to move to Michigan cities where it's 75% Somalian immigrants.
Right? Yeah.
Let me know
eat
how
your
that
halal
goes.
fucking steak, or whatever. I don't care. Whatever. I mean, I care, but I don't care if you jump over and decide to prove how.
Don't be offensive. It's halal.
Oh, you're right. It's halal. And writing something about like America's fraternity, American a beacon of a yeah, exactly. I'm like accepting people, and it's like, and how has that fucking worked out for us? Like half of our problems.
Well, I mean, no, but I mean that's the people who are coming from an a priori assumption of that this is good. They could not tell you why it's good, other than. Well, then we'll have more different cultures, and I enjoy it. Like you're saying that's enjoyable to you. It's not strengthening the country,
right? But not only that, this is what we've talked about many times. Like the problem with a lot of modern philosophy is it assumes certain virtues are virtues without any like philosophical structure that makes that so.
Philosophical, empirical, any sort of structure.
Right? Like I could
break
down 1,000 people's
of
like
what is good
just by asking why, and then eventually it would get to the appeal to the authority they're making. There is no authority they're appealing to.
Right.
Or they're appealing to just grand goodness.
Or like everybody knows.
Everybody knows that okay, why should we help?
Well, that's what I said before. Like they say diversity is good, and then it's like, why? Well, because when you don't have any diversity, that's bad. Why? And it's like, why? Yeah, that's a circuit. It's just tautology.
It down,
well, it just begs the question. Like, no, literally, why is that good? Like, assume I'm an alien from outer space. And I say, why? And I just don't know anything. I'm like, why is that good?
Assume I'm super Asperger's and I don't get human interactions.
Right. The only way that they could ever, the only thing they can ever say is that it's just like
mean.
Well, just no, either that or just like it's just culturally, it's just cool and fun to have more cultures everywhere. Right. Like they just want the U.S. to be like Epcot, where you can go get different types of food and see people wearing different things. It's like no, but literally, you didn't say it's enjoyable. You didn't say I like it. You said diversity is strength.
Right. Yeah.
Show me how our country is stronger because of this.
Yeah.
Prove it.
Yeah. Exactly, and that among other things too. But and it's anyway. Yeah. We could go down this forever, of course. So let's go on to some humorous stories, perhaps.
Okay, what do we got?
I found. Well, we'll go with ones tied to this first. Apparently, in Louisiana, where they put some refugees, they've already lost them. They've already disappeared into whatever, probably to plan some shit, or who knows? They're already having to admit that we did not set up. Despite what, the guy we were just talking about saying, America is a good program for assimilating people within 2 years, that's stupid thing to say, because not only is that not true.
People have not been sitting there for 2 years.
I'm sure that's not true. Yeah. That also means that it will break down if we take too many too fast, and you're not admitting that.
Right, yeah. Well, yeah, it means that if it takes less than 2 years, you're saying that could be a problem.
Right.
And it also, first of all, I think it's horseshit.
I think it's horseshit at first, but I'm saying, at least you're admitting without even knowing it, that you're saying
there is only
a slow assimilation works. Right. You're admitting that within 2 years we can get somebody integrated appropriately. But that's saying, what happens if we take 100,000 of them in 1 week?
And put them in the same fucking place, like in Sumter, Germany, where a town of 100 people got 750 refugees.
Yeah. And
luckily, a lot of states' governors have been like, nope, including Florida.
That was one of the things I was going to point out.
I think it was 10 or 12 states. They're just like, you know what?
I'm happy to hear that. Because, here's the thing. Those parts of the world, this is something people don't want to believe because it sounds bad. It sounds nice.
Right.
And it is nice when you can take refugees and take care of them. But the problem is that so much of our morality has been without wisdom.
Right.
You know what I mean? Yes, it is nice when you're got your own house in order to give to those who are misfortunate.
Right.
We don't have our own house in order.
Yeah.
And this is not actually helping their misfortune. It's just importing their problems, and then they're going to be second, third-class citizens in a new country. Right. Instead of fixing the problems amongst their own people and having a healthy nation that they can be a part of.
Yeah.
And so it's avoiding that. And that's a hard thing. And sometimes you can't help. You can't go over to every country and help them start their own nation because they have to find their own identity and their own strength, and they have to do it themselves sometimes.
Right.
And that just doesn't sound nice.
No, of course,
it doesn't let me.
It's evil.
And
there's this neo-white man's burden thing that's going on.
And we are not racist, but we do have the white man's burden.
And because we're not better, that's why it's our responsibility to fix
make
the
sure
whole
everybody
fucking world.
Does it our way.
Wait, why do we are in a better position if we're not?
Right? Yeah, exactly. And then anyway, jump from that to apparently this is just another short one, but I kind of wanted to call out a person's name and say bravo to this gentleman. Okay. But a new recent story about a U.S. court. There was a case to stop NSA tapping of phones program that was scheduled to like end at the end of this year, and then they're gonna have to by law renew it. And somebody did an injunction to halt it entirely because like renew part of the Patriot Act because it's NSA mass surveillance tapping without warrant, without anyone being suspected or fingered for a crime.
Right.
You're just mass data gathering. Well, anyway, I just wanted to point out that some lawyer named Larry Klayman with a K is the guy who kind of started it, and he's appealing it again right away, even though the U.S. court, circuit court, said no, they can continue until the law fizzles out or until the law's renewal period. And this guy, even though it's only buying like a month, because it's going to end at the end of November or the end of December, he's still finding, I'm like, hey, bravo, sir. I would like to just point out the name of whoever this Larry Klayman is and say, you just don't hear enough people fighting that kind of stuff, and especially the people who can actually do something. Like the average layman can't do anything because the way our system works. Like they're not going to just take a mass poll and we say 51% of us say stop it. They wouldn't just stop it, even though they purport to be a democracy. But also in terms of bizarre news, two funky stories here.
I've got one too. This may be the same one.
Okay,
probably not.
Is it the one about the Indonesian couple that killed a supposed rapist and ate his penis?
No. Didn't hear that one. The dude ate it too?
I think he was the guy pretty much ate it. I don't know if the girl did. Anyway.
He was just like, fuck you.
This is a story, I think, where this is another case of a regret rape story. Maybe it wasn't. Maybe
she fucked him and it was like, oh, he raped me.
They got married.
She didn't get divorced.
They got married. He found out she wasn't a virgin on their wedding night. Yeah. And then she broke down and told him that she was raped by this guy.
Oh, yeah.
And then, very suspicious. Yeah. And so then...
he got pissed and went and
murdered this guy. He got pissed and they both, she pointed him out and they both, cornered him and he stabbed him to death. He was like a taxi driver or a driver for a travel company.
In berserker mode,
and then he cut off, stabbed him and cut it off. Anyway, he took it home and grilled it it's some weird barbaric,
I reclaimed my woman.
Yeah, I came over because I ate this guy's dick. Yeah, exactly. It's I'll eat his heart and gain his power, or
eat his dick and gain my wife's virginity
back. Yeah, exactly. And this is what we want to import.
That's awesome.
And you wonder why if they come here and stand on our magic dirt, they'll abandon all these beliefs and methodologies.
Oh, that reminds me. I just saw this thing I saw this article not long ago that was an A-list star probably has HIV and he's someone he slept with all these people, including all these porn stars.
Charlie
and I was
Sheen.
Right when it came out, I was like, it's got to be Charlie Sheen. One other person who is considered A-list is banging a bunch of porn stars all the time, and it comes out that it is Charlie Sheen.
Yeah.
And someone said something. It goes back to what I was just saying, but they were like, you have to get past the stigma of AIDS being a gay disease. But in the article, they're saying he was having the porn stars bring over their tranny friends and fucking them. So it's it is.
Yeah, I'm sure he was just fucking everything.
Yeah, it was dudes.
And he was doing drugs.
I'm sure he was doing drugs too.
He got it from being a total sex fiend, everyone expects.
Drug addict. Yeah. So exactly.
Yeah, no shit. You don't have to get. You have to get over the stigma.
You know what
You're right.
You know what the chances are? If a woman is infected with HIV, they have AIDS or HIV at least, and you have unprotected sex with them, do you know what the chances are that you'll get it?
What?
It's 1 out of 1,500 or 3,000.
The transmission rates between the sexes
from women to men.
Oh,
from men to women is much higher
because it goes through the seminal fluid.
Exactly. But there's almost never any fluid transfer from women to men. It's incidental, and you'd have to either have an open wound or get into a needle or something. Yeah. But yeah, it's incredible. Even with their infected person, you have to 1,000 times, you still might not get AIDS.
Right.
Let me see what that is. I'm not going to try and look it up right now, but
that's crazy. Anyway,
so it's not. It's just fun. But they will refuse. They want to think that it's
funny sex stories, and this one's also disturbing.
Oh, this may be the one that I found.
The person who fight over the sex position.
Yeah, in the storage unit. That's all. And you see the picture of that beast?
Sex with that fat beast? That square jaw.
I was like, is this the dude or the woman?
Right, yeah.
It's a rough.
So for those who don't know, there was some woman named Wendy
Florida.
Looper.
It was in Florida.
Yeah, Bradenton was south of...
Oh, shit, that's close.
South of Tampa.
Yeah.
Not close. It's hours away, but... It's
an
hour south of Tampa.
2.5
It's an hour or so south of Tampa.
Okay, whatever. That's close.
So that's many hours from us. But...
3 hours.
Whatever, yeah. That's the length of some states, though.
Yeah, you're right.
But yeah, so... it was funny because apparently these people were exes. They're in their 50s.
Yeah.
And I don't know what this person was thinking or what these people were thinking, but they go back to a
they went to the storage
unit to collect the things as they're separating. But apparently, it's like on and off again. And
yeah,
so
it's like
the
a
woman like
tumultuous...
literally just like stripped.
She
and
takes
said,
all the clothes off and is like, "Do me," and
right.
he's like, "All right, lay down," and she's like, or whatever position, and she's like, "No, I don't want to do that position," and then like
so
savagely
he's like,
attacked him.
He's like, "Fine, I'm going to collect my things and go." So she beamed him with something over the head, and then as he's halfway in the car, like getting his things, she jumps in the driver's seat and drives it so it drags him for a bit.
He was getting his stuff like
it
out
runs
of
over his foot and drags him a bit, and so then he calls the cops. The cops show up, and she's there like, he was trying to have sex with me,
right.
you know, and it's like he's bleeding from his head, his foot.
You know what I was happy about though is that they showed up and they actually just arrested her.
Yeah,
a lot of times,
God.
yeah, a lot of times they'll show up and just like they arrest. They must have known she was a lunatic.
They're like, which one of you has the penis? You're going to jail.
Yeah. Well, a lot of times it'll just be both, even if the guy's like all fucked up.
Right. Yeah. But that was like I'm reading that. I'm like, what? What is going on here? Who wanted to do that?
Here, look, it says
thirsty.
The average male to female risk of HIV transmission is only 0.08% per vaginal sex act.
Really?
That's incredibly
Weird.
low. So that means even for a dude is infected with HIV, 7 to 8 cases of transmissions for every 10,000 acts of unprotected vaginal sex if there was no anal intercourse. It's all transmitted from anal sex. Not even necessarily gay sex, but come on. I mean, it's much more transmittable from
Interesting,
from
I guess,
sex.
just because of the way that the intestinal lining.
Well, just the tissue, the absorption of tissues, the likelihood of fissures in the skin and tearing and stuff like that from anal sex versus vaginal sex.
In your blood,
right. It's much more easily absorbed into the blood.
Well, let's move on from that pleasant topic.
I'm telling you, like, there's people.
Well, no, but it is true. Like I said, people just can't even acknowledge truth. It's like science. And that's what's so funny. People like to champion science. Like, I believe in science, and science is the thing that offends them the most because science has these hard facts that say it's mostly gay people and drug addicts.
Right.
All the math, statistics, and analysis say this.
Yeah, exactly.
Fucking get over it.
Yeah, exactly. Deal with it. Why is that even like an issue?
Right.
It's just like, this
it's not a moral statement.
This particular disease happens to be transmitted this way, so these are the people who are going to get it. Just like if it's a transmission that you get from bats, fucking cave explorers are going to get it.
Right,
It doesn't mean that you're saying cave explorers are like shitty people. Like, oh my god, the stigma of this cave disease.
Yeah, the stigma of the people who step in back guano. You know, like, no, you can't shame them for stepping in back guano like that by pointing out that stepping in back guano.
There's other ways you can get syphilis.
Yeah.
Not really.
Yeah,
no.
I mean, maybe if somebody injects you with
but
it
that's what
on
I'm saying.
purpose.
That's
like
people who bring up stupid shit like that. Like the exception proves the rule in these cases.
You can't say that you get fat from eating food,
right?
What
about thyroid stuff? Like, okay, so the 0.001% of obese people can get mad at me,
right?
Ridiculous.
Exceptions often prove the rule, dumbass. Right. You know, like
well, nothing is 100% anyway. But like I said, it's well beyond being able to make a predictive model and enough knowledge to modify your behavior based on your knowledge of it.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean? Just like the people who I liken it to the people who say like, oh, you should always wear your seatbelt, and then there's always the assholes like, well, I knew this guy who he didn't have a seatbelt, and he was like flung from the wreckage. They said if he was buckled up, he would have been dead. And it's just like maybe in that 1 out of a million case he would have, but in almost every, like, feel free to risk your life on it. But like based on the facts, statistics and the
statistical facts, all collected data on the subject,
you're much better off.
You have a higher percent chance of surviving with the seatbelt than without.
Yeah.
There will be cases where it's a heck of a thing like that, but that's the situation where you should just be on the side of the road going, man, flung from it and survived. Heck of a thing.
Right.
You know?
Some people are
not be like, you know what?
Just standing there and die. What are you going to do? Life gets weird sometimes.
Yeah, exactly.
You're never going to have to be able
Some people survive direct lightning
strikes. Are you going to be playing?
Don't.
If you're going into the poker hand, are you going to be like, I'm going to take the 7-deuce offsuit against the aces because sometimes
I knew one guy.
Sometimes it wins.
One guy trumped.
Sometimes it wins.
A guy's pocket aces somehow.
And then you feel like crazy.
2 pair of 7s and 2s.
Right.
Like, yeah, okay.
Yeah, that happens.
Really cool. It does happen.
Happens 1 out of 10 times instead of 9 out of 10 times.
Right, yeah, exactly.
Ridiculous. Wild stuff.
Yeah.
All right, so we're about the hour mark. We're going to give you guys a chance to go ponder all the wonderful things we've said.
Right, yeah.
Let it soak in.
I think it'll be interesting to see, like we were saying, you know, as much as a tragedy it is, it could also be the shot in the arm that the Western world needs with Paris to realize the destructive power.
And with what is in all like relative terms of relatively small, like 100 people sucked, but like 9/11 was over 2,000. Like they could have done it, you know what I mean? Like this,
And the amount of people that would die for over years.
It would be 100 people every weekend if like murders in these neighborhoods.
Jihad number 26 started to convert
or if it just
all of Europe.
Right, exactly. Then who knows what would happen? It could be millions, you know? So, anyways, that's all we're going to do for today.
And the one thing I will say, to wrap that up too, that thought, is I think it's important. It's like we said, a lot of people feel all bad and feel all stupid. And what they're not realizing is the best thing for all peoples, for them to be happy, healthy, is that each nation gets to do its own thing and not be forcibly converted by smashing them together for quote-unquote multiculturalism.
Right.
The best thing for Nigeria is a healthy Nigeria that is not... It is allowed to be
not
that.
Trying to
the
be
best
America.
thing for America is a happy, healthy America.
It's not trying to be Nigeria.
It's not trying to be Nigeria.
Right.
You know, like let the peoples of the world
instead
be
of trying
themselves.
to make like one restaurant that has like, well, I like sushi, but I also like burgers. Let's make like a sushi burger because diversity is strength. No, if you want a sushi place, have a burger place.
Let the peoples of the world be
I'm not saying you
themselves
shouldn't be
and
able to
run their
like
own shit.
You kick people out, like not let them even go there. Like, what are you doing here? Like visiting and shit.
Right,
but
yeah.
like, or even live there, and you know, in certain amounts. But
yeah, exactly.
There is no inherent strength in diversity. That's just a bogus concept.
Exactly, and there is a lot of obviously history's borne out. There's a lot of pain in trying to force. it.
Yep. So on that, we'll end it. We'll talk to you guys later. It's English Podcast signing out.
Adios.